there, kids! Do you know who Moses was? Well, get ready for an exciting journey through one of the coolest stories from the Bible. Long ago in the land of Egypt, there was a kind and loving family. They had a baby boy named Moses. Moses was very special because God had big plans for him. At that time, the king of Egypt was afraid of the Israelites, so he made a cruel law. He ordered that all Israelite baby boys must be thrown into the river Nile. But Moses' family loved him very much, so they decided to keep him safe. Moses' mother made a little basket and coated it with tar so that water couldn't get inside. Then she gently placed baby Moses in the basket and placed it among the reeds by the riverbank. Moses' sister Miriam stayed nearby to watch over him. She waited and watched to see what would happen to her baby brother. Moses grows up, a leader in training. Moses grew up in the palace of the king of Egypt. He had everything he could want, but he never forgot that he was an Israelite. One day, when Moses was older, he saw an Egyptian mistreating an Israelite. Moses was angry, so he looked around to make sure no one was watching, and then he killed the Egyptian. When the king heard about what Moses had done, he tried to kill him. Moses had to run away to save his life. He traveled far away to a place called Midian and lived there for many years. The burning bush, God's call to Moses. One day, while Moses was taking care of his sheep, something amazing happened. He saw a bush that was on fire, but it didn't burn up. Moses was curious, so he went closer to see. As Moses approached, God spoke to him from the burning bush. God told Moses that he had seen the suffering of the Israelite people in Egypt, and that he had a special job for Moses to do. God wanted Moses to go back to Egypt and lead his people, the Israelites, out of slavery. Moses was scared and unsure if he could do what God was asking, but God promised to be with him and help him every step of the way. Moses and the plagues, setting the people free. So Moses went back to Egypt with his brother Aaron. They went to the king and asked him to let the Israelite people go. But the king refused. So God sent plagues, terrible things like frogs, flies, and darkness, to show the king that he was powerful. After each plague, Moses asked the king again to let the Israelites go, but the king kept saying no. Finally, God sent the worst plague of all. He told Moses to tell the Israelites to mark their doorposts with the blood of a lamb. That night, God passed through Egypt and took the life of every firstborn son, except for those in the homes marked with the lamb's blood. The king was so scared that he finally let the Israelites leave Egypt. Moses led them out of Egypt and toward the land that God had promised them. Crossing the Red Sea, God's miraculous rescue. As the Israelites traveled, they came to the Red Sea with the king's army chasing after them. They were trapped with nowhere to go, but God performed a miracle. He made a path through the sea, and the Israelites walked across on dry ground. When the Egyptian army tried to follow, the waters came crashing down and swallowed them up. The 10 Commandments, God's laws for his people. After crossing the Red Sea, Moses led the Israelites to a mountain called Sinai. There, God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, rules to help his people live good and happy lives. Moses spent a lot of time on the mountain talking with God and learning his laws. When he came back down, his face was shining because he had been so close to God. Moses leads the Israelites, a journey to the promised land. For 40 years, Moses led the Israelites through the desert toward the land that God had promised them. Along the way, God provided food and water for them, and he protected them from their enemies. Though Moses never got to enter the promised land himself, he was a great leader who showed the Israelites how to love and obey God. Moses' story teaches us that God has a plan for each of us. Even when things seem scary or hard, we can trust that God is with us and will help us, just like he helped Moses. And that's the story of Moses, how a special baby grew up to become a leader who helped God's people find freedom and learn to love him. So kids, remember to subscribe for more exciting Bible stories like this one. And don't forget to share your favorite part of Moses' story in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going and continue to explore the incredible stories that the Bible has to offer.